Tonight, my message is called From Band-Aid to Breakthrough. Who knows that sometimes we can put a Band-Aid on things and then kind of just, we're like, oh, well, I've stopped the bleeding. So, that's all, everything's all good. But what I really need in my life is some breakthrough. Those people who just put prayer requests on the screen, they need some breakthrough. When we're believing as a church, we're believing together that God is going to bring breakthrough in their lives. Not just a quick fix, not just a Band-Aid fix, although I do love a Band-Aid fix. I do love a quick fix. There is this cliche about computers, technology, machines, that if something's going wrong, you just like give it a whack or give it a kick and it's all going to be okay. And I have cringed many a times and gone at people who have slammed their phone or people who have like punched their microwave or whatever and hoped that it was going to work. I'm like, you're probably just going to make this worse. But then 2 years ago, Hannah's car broke and I thought I would try something. I thought I would try just hitting it, and I could not, the car was not even starting, there was no lights showing up, and I hit it, and I just couldn't believe it. It actually worked. And it was unbelievable. It was like, and I was like, I don't even need to take this to a mechanic. I can just hit this every time. And it would happen every so often. I got a video to show you. This is what I recorded a few years ago. This is a video of it working. Press the button, nothing. Give it a little bit of a shove. It works. How good? Car doesn't start. Turn the key. Nothing's working. Give it a hit. Bang. She's all good. I love a quick fix. I love just giving that thing a smack and we're all good to go. I love whenever I can implement a solution like that, I don't have to go to the mechanics. I don't have to, if I can put a Band-Aid over my tire and it stops the leak, that's probably not going to happen, but if I can have a quick fix like that, then baby, we are in business. Come on, who loves a quick fix? I know surely there's someone in this crowd who had a crack on their screen and rather than fixing the screen, they just got a new screen protector. It's all good. It's smooth. It works again. Some of us have probably, damaged a wall at home and you just put a picture frame over the top of it. It's like, it's out of sight, it's out of mind, it's a quick fix, it's bippity boppity, and you're on your way. Who's ever seen those cars that are like, they've broken the windscreen, but they haven't been to the dealer yet, and they do this? Yeah. Hey, come on, we've all seen plenty of those around town. All the bogan chariots, you see them quite often. Someone's just gotten a roll of Glad Wrap, $1.69, throwing it around, and you're good. Who needs to pay $250 for oh? Hey, that's pretty good. Maybe it's that we don't have the money to fix these things, but more often than not, I feel like we like the quick fixes because we look at the real fix and it's like, oh, that's going to take a bit of work. And so we settle for these quick fixes that we have in life. But often the problem is still there. If you paint over rust, the rust is still there. It's still going to eat away at the metal. If you have mold in your house and you just paint over it, bad news. Do not do that. The problem is still there and it's just getting worse under the surface. And we do these with these little things, but some of us in life, we do it with the bigger things, the things that actually can tend to hurt us if we don't deal with it. Maybe you drink or you get high to escape the way that you're feeling. That's just a Band-Aid fix. Maybe you're having relationship troubles, and so you decide to come home with a bouquet of flowers. That's just a Band-Aid fix. You still need to talk about whatever's going on in your relationship. Maybe you didn't plan your finances well, so Afterpay comes to the rescue. Or you have a credit card debt. That seems to be getting bigger and bigger. The credit card is just a Band-Aid fix. Maybe you're struggling to feel accepted, so you post something online to see what kind of comments or likes that you'll get. A Band-Aid fix. Maybe you procrastinated so bad on an assignment that you had to call ChatGPT into the ring. I mean, it's helpful for once off, but you're not learning anything, and it's just a Band-Aid fix. And if you're thinking about coming up to me after the service and talking about all the good uses for ChatGPT, you've just missed the whole point. We have a tendency to patch up problems in our life rather than finding the true cure. We think, if I can just make it look good on the surface, somehow we think, yeah, that'll convince others, but also it'll convince me that everything's okay. And actually, this is how the Pharisees lived, and Jesus had something to say about it. Because they were so concerned about making everything look good on the surface, but Jesus' time on earth shows us that he's interested in way more than just dealing with what's on the surface. Jesus is interested in full healing. You know, Cass just talked about healing there. There was 2 people who prayed for healing in the pre-service meeting. I'm talking about healing a little bit later on in my message. I just can't believe how that is strung together. Jesus is interested in full healing, people. He's not interested in the paracetamol and the Panadol, and yes, that will help you. And of course, he wants you to feel better, but he's interested in the root cause. Jesus is interested in full healing. He's interested in full restoration. He's interested in giving us a rich and satisfying life. The King James says life and life abundantly. We're not just here for a quick fix. But what Jesus does in our life is more than a Band-Aid, but Jesus wants to bring us to a place of breakthrough. And the story of David and Goliath is where I want to land today, and it's an interesting one because there's a very big problem physically. A 3-meter tall problem. And the way that this story comes to a resolution, I think can show us something that's going to be pivotal to our own lives and how we solve the problems that come our way that are more than just a Band-Aid fix, but actually take us to a point of breakthrough. So in 1 Samuel, 1 Samuel 17 verse 4, it says that the Philistine army had a hero called Goliath, and he was the hero of Gath. He came from Gath, and he was about 3 meters tall. I should have got some kind of measuring stick, but this boy tall. I mean, people are asking him if he plays basketball, and he's, no, I am a warrior for this place called Gath. I'm not a basketball. Yes, the weather is nice up here. He is tall. He is getting those types of jokes all the time. And he says, hey, choose your best soldier to come out and fight me. And he's talking to the Israelites. He's like, come at me, bro. Square up. Square up. Choose your best soldier to come out and fight me. And look, if he kills me, then our people, the people who I come from, will be your slaves. But if I kill him, well, guess what? You get to be my slave. And so when he said this, he was challenging them. He's saying, I'm challenging you. Send someone out to fight me. So we've got this big dude, super challenging, big problem, and the response of the Israelites is that they were scared and they ran off. Verse 25 says, look how he keeps coming out to insult us. And the king is actually offering a really big reward because this guy is kind of insulting our nation here. So the king is offering a huge reward to whoever kills this man called Goliath. That guy who kills him, he's going to even be able to marry the king's daughter. I don't know if she was like, I don't know what the appeal was, like maybe she was like super good looking, or maybe she just had the best character in the whole world, whatever it was, but it was like a really good personality, you know, face for radio. So there was this on offer, but this is the bit that gets me, and no one in their family will ever have to pay taxes again. Oh yeah, I love a bit of government-sanctioned tax fraud. So there's this great reward to kill this huge giant. We don't want no Band-Aid fix here. We don't want you to just like shut the giant up. Like we need this guy gone. And so David actually goes to Saul, who's the king at the time, and he's like, hey, Your Majesty, just with all due respect, these guys are making us look like absolute cowards. So why don't I go out and fight them myself? And Saul's like, hey, man, like you don't have a chance against him. You're just a little boy, and this guy's been a soldier his whole life. Like, imagine if I was like running, I don't know, the Olympic committee, and I'm looking for someone to do the 100-meter sprint, and some kid just comes up and is like, yeah, hey, at my local school, I'm pretty speedy. Like, I got the power of God and anime on my side. Like, I'm ready to go, dude. I'd be like, no thanks. You have not got the training. You haven't been running it on any kind of Olympic level. Please just put us aside for someone else. And that's what is happening right now. Saul's like, I don't know if you have the capacity to deal with this gigantic problem. And so because he's like a little bit worried, he starts to think, okay, what are we going to do here? So verse 38 says he puts all of his own armor and his own military equipment onto David. And he's like, well, maybe at least if he has this stuff that all the real soldiers use, maybe he'll get by. He gives him a bronze helmet to wear. And then David puts on this sword and he starts walking around and he's like, oh, I'm kind of not used to this. Like David had his own way of dealing with things. Scripture says that he would tackle lions and bears and just like rip their jaws off. Like that's just great. And even that this latest movie, Cocaine Bear, just would not get past David, I reckon. So he's not used to it, and so he just takes all the armor off. Verse 40 says he picks up his shepherd's staff, the thing that he's used to. And he goes out to a stream and he picks out 5 smooth stones. And I bet you the whole of the army is just being like, what is this guy doing? But he gets the sling in his hand and he runs straight towards Goliath. And David comes out and he's like, you have come to me with a sword and a spear and a dagger in your hand, but I've come to fight you in the most powerful name in existence, the name of the Lord God all-powerful, the name of Jesus Christ, our King, and he is going to see you defeated today. He is the God of Israel's army, and you have insulted him. And today God is going to help me to defeat you, and I'm going to knock you down, and I'm going to cut off your heads, and I'm going to feed the bodies of every other Philistine soldier to the birds and the wild animals. This guy has mastered the trash talk. He is good at the trash talk. And the whole world's going to know that Israel has a real God because I defeated you. He's got words. This boy's got words for fighting. So Goliath starts running towards David, and David runs towards him. He pulls the rock out, puts it in the sling, and he slings it around by its straps. And when he let go of one strap, he just lets go of one side, and the rock flings out. And he got that 360 no-scope straight in the head. He got put down. And then verse 51 says that even though he was already knocked down, David runs over, pulls out his sword, and cuts off his head. Off with his head. So, we've got a story about a big dude. And we've got a story about a little dude who's never fought this big dude before. A problem that is not just faced to him, but is faced to a whole nation. And how he dealt with it. And the first thought that I want to draw out of this is that Jesus is my Savior. Now, I know that I just said that David was the one who wins the battle. But the Bible is not a series of disconnected stories. The Bible is one story that leads to Jesus. And this story about David is actually giving us a glimpse forward into the type of person that Jesus is. And so often I've looked at this story of David and Goliath and I've thought, if I want to face my big battles that I have, I need to do what David did. David went and got the stones, so I got to go and get the stones. Or David ran onto the battlefield, so I've got to run out with courage into my battles. What did David do that I can do? But actually, when I really look at this story, I feel like I'm more like Saul. I feel like I'm more like the Israelite army that cowered in fear at the problems that were ahead. I see a big problem and I just freeze because I'm not ready for it. I'd be willing to do something if the fix was easy, but this looks really hard. Anyone else found themselves in a situation like that? And David comes and David wins the battle for the Israelites. But there is a true and better David whose victory becomes his people's victory, even though they never lifted a stone to do it. And his name is Jesus. He won a victory on the cross that became my victory. And by his blood I am set free. And when I get stuck, Jesus is the one that helps me get unstuck, not myself. I'm so all for any message that goes out and says, hey, you got to be like David and you got to press in and you got to run with courage. I've preached those messages before, but the longer I go on in life, the more I realize that I'm actually probably not that courageous. I probably need somebody who's going to come alongside and say, this is your battle, but I'm willing to fight it for you because we need freedom. I can see that you need freedom. And when Jesus died on the cross for us, the battle that he won for us is our freedom. It wasn't anything he was doing. He was fighting for us when he died on the cross. Man, when the Israelite soldiers saw Goliath, says in verse 24, they were scared and ran off. And this battle, it was David's win, but really it was a win for the whole of the Israelites' army. And some of us here tonight have been put on the front line of someone else's battle. That was David's battle to win, but the Israelites were on the front line. And some of us have been placed on the front line of a battle that's not ours. And we think to ourselves, because we're on the front line, that means that this is my battle. But this is one of the tactics that the devil uses against us. He puts us in the middle of the thick of a situation that is actually God's battle to deal with, actually a battle that he won before the foundation of time, when he saved our souls, when he went to the cross for us, that Jesus has already bought our freedom. It's his battle that he already won. But because we're placed on the front lines, we think, oh, what am I going to do about this? I don't know what I can do about it. And that's actually the key right there. I don't know what I can do about it. Too often we think that we're David, that we're the ones that are going to go and fight that battle. But actually, it's probably more like Jesus' job. Now, hear me out. There's practical things in life where you need to go ahead and you need to fix the problem. It's your problem. There's very practical things. Like if your toenails are too long, don't pray about it. Please clip them. If you're getting in trouble by your boss for being late, this is not a spiritual attack. You just need to get up earlier in the day, okay? So there are some things that actually, yes, they are our battles, but there are some battles that we are placed on the front line of that are actually Jesus' battles. If you're struggling to find purpose, don't put your hope in your career. There is a rich and meaningful purpose in Jesus. If you're struggling to feel loved, don't go looking for it online. There is a God who freely gives love, overflowing love. If you've got a problem in your body that the doctor can't understand, I know a Jesus who scripture says healed all who were oppressed of the devil, that says that all who came and touched him were healed. If you're battling thoughts that are dragging you down, yes, there is a pill that can help numb those thoughts and level you out. But there is a God that will fill you up with joy until it's overflowing. There's a lot of Band-Aid fixes out there, but there's one God who can bring a true breakthrough. And let me tell you, he already won it. He already won that victory for us on the cross. So what problems are holding you back right now? What problems are 3 meters tall and making you cower in fear? The Israelites were trying to take ground, but they were stuck in this stalemate for 40 days. So what problems are you facing right now that, if you're honest, you've been facing them for a little while now without any kind of resolve? Those are the problems that maybe we need to realize, okay, this is... Bro, so good to see you. Sorry. Just seeing my friend. There are some things that are happening in life that, man, this is actually Jesus' battle to fight. I really want to make this practical for you. What's an area that you have been at a stalemate in life? Maybe it's something that you've been dealing with for weeks now. Maybe it's something, maybe you got a Facebook memory and you just, from last year, and you just realize, wow, actually, I've been going through this for a long time. Maybe you think about your time at school or even primary school, and you realize, hey, this hasn't gotten any better. Then maybe this is something that you need to bring Jesus into the fight for. And my last question for this point is Jesus your savior, or are you your own savior? Too often we're made to feel like through video games, no one wants to play the civilian in a video game. No one wants to watch someone else save the world. I want to save the world. All of our movies are like, hey, there's a hero there, and everyone wants to dress up as the hero. Are you your own savior? Or is Jesus truly your savior? Point number 1, Jesus is my savior. Point number 2, Jesus is willing. Sometimes we don't think that Jesus is actually willing to help us and enter into our lives. Verse 32 says, Your Majesty, this is David speaking, this Philistine shouldn't turn us into cowards. I'll go out and fight him myself. This shows a willingness. As soon as David saw the problem, he was walking around the battle lines. He was asking all the other Philistine men, other Israelite men, hey, what's in it for someone who kills this guy? Because he's making a mockery of us. And I'm about done with this, and I'm ready to go out onto the battlefield. And some of us have never brought our problems to Jesus because we think that they're too big for him. But there is a keenness about David to bring the Israelites back into freedom that reflects the same keenness that Jesus has to bring our lives into freedom. There is a destiny on the Israelites that was put on hold for 40 days because of the Philistine army. And some of us tonight have a destiny that has been put on hold by problems and Goliaths in our lives. Things that are holding us back. We got to a certain point and we just stopped growing. Let me tell you tonight that Jesus wants to set you free from those things. Jesus is like, hey, there's a problem and I am willing to deal with it. I don't just see it, but I'm willing to deal with it and I want to deal with it. Jesus has a heart of compassion that draws him into our desires and our freedom, no matter how big or how small. So maybe for you, you think that Jesus wouldn't want to help you because you're ashamed of what you're facing. I know I felt that way about so many of the things that I struggled with. Maybe it's an addiction that's keeping you down. Maybe it's mental health struggles and you just feel weak that you're even going through it. Maybe it's a trauma in your past that you think that you should be able to deal with yourself and you kind of don't want anyone to know, but you're just struggling. These are the kinds of things that we have to realize Jesus is willing. I want to look at, I did talk about David, but I just really want to make sure that we understand how willing Jesus is. In Luke chapter 13, Jesus does this scathing thing to these Pharisees. That's actually pretty much what he does all the time. He just loves telling them off. Verse 13, verse 10, Jesus heals a lady on the Sabbath. Now, I say that and it probably doesn't mean anything to you, but back in the days of the Bible, if you should not be doing any work on the Sabbath. When it's Sunday, you're not allowed to heal. You shouldn't be doing any kind of work whatsoever. So, verse 10 says, on the Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in the synagogue, and a woman was there who had been crippled by an evil spirit for 18 years. I don't know if you've been going through anything that's 18 years. There's a lot of Bible verses that people have been going through things even longer than 18 years. But that's just basically there to say, hey, this chick's been going through it for a long time. And let's watch what Jesus did. She was there, she'd been crippled for 18 years. She was completely bent over. She couldn't even straighten up. And as soon as Jesus saw the woman, so she didn't even come up to him and say, hey, I'm looking for this healing. Jesus saw her. Jesus saw the state that she was in. Jesus knew that she needed freedom, and Jesus went to her. Jesus saw her, and he called her over, and he said, you are now well. He placed hands on her, and at once she stood up straight and she praised God. But then the man in charge of the synagogue was angry because somebody healed on the Sabbath. So he said to the people, hey, each day has 6 days when we can work, so come and be healed on one of those days and not the Sabbath. So this just reveals his heart. He thinks that healing is man's work. He sees this job as his job. This is something that humans can achieve. Come and do it on the 6 days when man is at work. And I love so often that we see Jesus doing all of these things on the Sabbath, because Jesus is basically saying, hey, I know that you've tried. You've had those 6 days. Why don't I show you what it looks like to walk in freedom? Jesus replied to him, are you trying to fool someone? Wouldn't you untie your donkey or an ox to lead it out to a drink on the Sabbath? And he's implying, and you wouldn't consider that, breaking the law. This woman belongs to the family of Abraham, but Satan has kept her bound for 18 years. So surely it is right to heal her on the Sabbath. And Jesus' words made his enemies ashamed, but everyone else in the crowd was happy about the wonderful things that he was doing. Jesus corrected the thinking of the synagogue leader with this parable. The logic for Jesus' healing was the same of the logic of helping a donkey that cannot help itself. He was basically saying healing is this woman's basic need. It isn't an option that we can wait till Monday. If you're willing to take your ox out to feed so that it doesn't die because you're trying to take care of its basic need, this woman has a need. And it is not something that I'm going to sit around and wait for. It wasn't an optional extra. Jesus was saying, we cannot wait. Let's not wait. If this person is in need of something, even if it's in need of healing, then let's deal with it today. That is the urgency of Jesus. That is the urgency of David that I see on the battle line. And that is the urgency that I see in Esther as she cries. trying to think of my words here. As she makes her case before the king. That is the urgency that I see in so many biblical characters that prefigure Jesus, is that there's an urgency. There's not I'm going to sit around and wait and hopefully this thing deals with itself. I'm not just going to put a Band-Aid on this, but actually Jesus is interested in healing us. Jesus is interested in bringing freedom. Jesus is our Savior, and He loves to heal. So what have you neglected to bring to Jesus because you thought He had bigger fish to fry? And what issues do you have in your life that you're thinking, that's not that big of a deal. I put this Band-Aid on. I'm right for now. I'll deal with it in my own strength eventually. If you've got any kind of giant that's been yelling at you for a while, if you've got any kind of situation that has been making you feel ashamed, that's making you cower back from life in general, maybe it's time to recognize that Jesus is waiting on the battle lines, waiting to be tagged in. He's walking around. David is asking all of the Israelites, hey, who's going to get this guy? Can I go in? Can I go in? He has a keenness and an urgency to jump in the ring for you. Jesus is our Savior. Jesus is willing. My last thought is that Jesus has His own way of dealing with things. I dropped Levi home the other day, and I know where his house is, and I knew how to get there. But as we were driving, he was like, "Oh, you should go this way, and you should take this street," and because he knows. I mean, he drives that way every single day. He knows the fastest way to get back to his house, and I knew a way, but he knew the fastest way. Why? Because he was so familiar with that route. He does it every day. And when we face troubles and battles in life, the best kind of solutions come from somebody who has taken everything into consideration. But yet, our scope is so limited. We think of ways to deal with things, and yes, they may help to deal with things, but actually, Jesus knows us inside and out. I've done a personality test. Who's done a personality test before? It's great. It tells you a lot about yourself. You kind of learn a few things, and you learn how to better navigate some situations in life. But there is still so much that I don't know about my life. And that's why therapists exist. They help you discover those types of things. But there is a person who knows us even more intimately. Psalm 139 verse 13 says, "You made all of the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you, God, for making me so wonderful. Your workmanship is marvelous." There's an awe at how God has put us together. And it says, "How well I know it." Jesus is the one who knows us inside and out. God formed our very being. He knows our humanity from the physicality of our stem cells that give birth to new life within our own body, through to the spiritual and emotional systems that we have created as we've gone through life that begin to govern our thoughts and behaviors. He knows it all. We have a very limited understanding, but He knows it all, and so only He knows the best way to deal with things. When I think about the ways that Jesus deals with stuff, He has a weird way, man. I used to wear this band that said, "What would Jesus do?" But I tell you what, if someone come up to me and was blind, I probably wasn't about to spit in some mud and rub it on their eyes. I don't know if "what would Jesus do" kind of applies in that situation, because Jesus did some weird stuff. Jesus dealt with stuff in some weird ways. But He always dealt with it in a way that was going to work exactly for the people that He was dealing with. Saul tried to give David his own armor. And David was like, this is ill-fitting. This is not going to work for me. And he picks up the stuff that he is used to, the way that he had dealt with situations in the past, his shepherd's staff. The battles that he had won in the past, gave him the confidence for what he was going to face in the future. And so my question to us tonight is, when we're praying, asking God for help, are we asking Jesus to fix a problem in the way that we think it should be fixed? Or are we ready to ask for help in whatever way Jesus is going to give it? I wonder what Saul did when David set off to fight Goliath without any of the traditional trimmings of war. And that's the exciting part about handing things to Jesus. We might think it should be dealt with in a 1, 2, 3 But then we get to watch God do things in such a crazy way. Like Talitha and Levi, their story that they just shared about how God came through for them in a way that they didn't expect. You know, they just had no idea that somebody was going to come to them and give them this generous gift that was going to see them through that week. And when God works for us, it always happens in an unexpected, surprising way. The way that Jesus bought our freedom. It wasn't through the ways that we expect. It wasn't through a takeover of government, a dissolving of the cabinet. It was through being a sacrifice, through washing other people's feet, by becoming the lowest. The way that Jesus dealt with the blind man, the way that Jesus dealt with the rich young ruler. There's all these examples of ways that you think it's going to end up like this, but Jesus consistently shows that he's dealing with things not in an earthly way, but in a heavenly way, in a way that brings the kingdom of God to earth. And so are you ready for Jesus to bring a resolution in a way that he's going to bring it? So many of us, we just want it to be done our way. But I want to challenge you tonight to let go of the battle. It's not your battle to fight. I want to challenge you tonight to let go of any holdbacks that you have. Jesus is willing. Jesus wants to help. Jesus wants to see you live in freedom. And Jesus has his own way of doing things. So let's just be comfortable with that. I'm going to challenge you to be comfortable with letting God do things in his way, in his timing. Can we stand right now? And as we stand, I just think that the most practical thing that we could do is for every one of us right now, I just want us to think of a challenge. Whatever that 3-meter tall Goliath is in our life, whether it's a feeling that keeps holding us back, stopping us from stepping out, whether it is something that's very practical, a life situation, a circumstance, such as something in your body, you can believe for healing tonight. Whether it's something that's spiritual or emotional that you just can't seem to get past, Jesus wants to heal that as well. Whatever it is, just bring it to your mind right now. And even just in your inner monologue, just say to God right now, God, I'm bringing you this. I'm bringing you my relationship with my dad. I'm bringing you my knee, which just absolutely needs healing right now. God, I'm bringing you the nightmares that I've been having late at night. God, I'm bringing you the trembles that I get at work when there's those people that have hurt me so badly that are coming my way. God, I'm bringing you the anxiety that I feel every time I go back into that situation. Whatever it is, just bring that and just say it. Just say it internally right now. God, I'm bringing that to you. And if you're bringing something to God tonight, I'm not even going to look around, and please, everyone just keep your eyes closed, but just lift one hand up, even if it's just to your side, and let's pray together and just believe for God to bring breakthrough. God, we don't want the Band-Aid fix. God, we don't just want to slap something on it, look to the side and hope that it's all going to be good. God, we need your breakthrough. Jesus, we need the breakthrough that you have already brought for us when you paid the price on the cross for our sins. God, when you came to this earth, when you brought your kingdom of heaven to earth, God, we need that in our lives. God, we don't need that Band-Aid fix. God, I'm praying and believing for every single person right here who is bringing a situation to you, God. We're lifting it up. God, please do what you're going to do. God, do it in your way and in your timing. God, we let go of our desire to see it happen in our way and our will. We want you to work in it, God. This week, we are believing for you to bring breakthrough. God, we are believing for your healing in our bodies, for you to be restoring cells to the way that they need to be restored. God, for you to be bringing peace and sleep to those who need it, God. God, for you to be bringing provision to those of us who are wondering how we're going to make ends meet. We are believing for your breakthrough tonight. Breakthrough that comes from you, Jesus, from you running out onto the battlefield, not from our strength, not from our might, not from the way Google told us to do it, not from the way that influencer posted in their top 5 tips, but Jesus, we are believing for your breakthrough. We want your glory to shine in our lives, God. We give you those situations tonight, Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. And can we just close our eyes once more? And I just want to pray for anyone right now who has never really lived at all with Jesus at the front, with Jesus on the battle lines. It's so easy to go through life and be trying to deal with all of these battles ourselves. And I'm believing tonight that there's people here who need to put Jesus at the front and to just let go of control. And if that's you, I want to pray for you. So again, everyone, please just keep your eyes closed. And just so that I know who I'm praying for, just lift your hand right now. If you want me to pray for for bringing Jesus back into the front, for bringing Jesus to the forefront of your life. Thank you. There's a hand already. You can put it down. Is there anyone else that wants to join tonight? Yes, thank you. You can put your hand down. 2 people already. Great. Anyone else here tonight? If you're watching on YouTube, online, please just put your hand up even in your own bedroom, wherever you are. Just recognize right now that this is your moment. Anyone else here joining these people that I want to pray for? Cool. God, I pray for these people who just want to put you on the front of their battle lines. God, who want to bring you into the center of their life. We know that it is you that makes the difference, Jesus. And we pray that you would come in and you would move in their life, God, as they become open to you, as they open their hearts, as they open their everyday situations. We are praying for your love and your peace to just saturate their lives, God, and that even this week, they will begin to see the difference of having you in their life. And then in Jesus' name, amen.